Assalamu alaikum everybody, this is Arabic teacher Sam and a very warm welcome to, what is this, episode 4. Episode 4 in the Prophet Hud series. So yeah, funnily enough, we haven't actually even met Prophet Hud alayhi salam yet in this story, have we? We've been over, 3 whole chapters. I think the last chapter was Udwan wa Adin. Then we did Kufran wa Adin was before that, and then Ba'da Nuhin before that. So if you haven't watched those videos, go back to the earlier videos in this same playlist and make sure you catch up with us, inshallah. Each of the episodes are only sort of 20 minutes or so, so so it shouldn't take you too long to get up to speed with the rest of us. So Chapter 4. Just before we start very quickly, I will just let you know that this is the last week that I'm running the early bird discount to get into the Arabic in 60 Steps program, inshallah. So I'd love to have any of you guys on board. Any of you who want to learn Arabic more seriously in a way that's sort of well supported and, and you'll get me personally to kind of take care of you on your Arabic language learning journey. So it'd be really cool to hear from some of you guys who want to be involved in that. But either way, let's crack on with this, inshallah. So we begin. وَكَانَ عَادٌ. We've met kana a number of times. I mean, kana's best translation most of the time is just the word was. Aad, we already know who aada. So aad were is what we've got so far. La shughla lahum. This sort of expression, la something, la, means they didn't do or they didn't have most of the time, right? So like this, Arabic has some funny ways of saying the verb have. In the Arabic in 60 Steps program, it's lesson 14. There's a whole lesson on different ways of saying have, because there isn't really a good verb in Arabic for saying have, or at least Arabic chooses not to use a conventional verb like that most of the time. Most of the time use a preposition. You might use something like li. So rather than saying, when you say like I have a brother, in Arabic it might choose to say li, to me, akhun, a brother. So what we have here is la shughla. There is no shughul, there is no work. This la something with a fatha after it is the same as what we have when we say la ilaha. When we say la ilaha illallah, we're saying there is no ilah, there is nothing worthy of worship, there is no deity. So here we're saying la shughla, there is no shughul, there's no work. So to add, there was no work. Basically, they didn't do anything. They didn't do any work. Illa, except. So they didn't do any work except something. This is Arabic's way of saying they only did. They only did this. Arabic does have a word for only. It uses the word faqat. Faqat, written like this. Faqat. But most of the time, rather than using the word only, Arabic will choose to say no something except something. Rather than saying something like only boys go to this school, it would say nobody goes to the school except boys. Arabic likes to use this expression. So that's what's going on here. Yeah, there is no work to them except. So aad, it's saying aad wouldn't do anything except al-aklu. They would do eating. The verb akala means to eat. Wa shurbu. Shurb is drinking. Wa lahu. Lahu is sort of like vain speech. It's meaningless talk. It's just sort of chatting. It's like when people sort of go to the coffee shop and just sort of sit and chat about nonsense, like things that just don't really matter. So that's sort of lahu. Well, la'ib, that directly comes from the verb la'iba, which means to play. So this is saying that all Aad would do, all they would do is they would eat and drink and chat away and play. They weren't doing any shughul, they weren't doing any work. The word shughul does just mean work generally. It's like amal. It means work. It's something that, when people work hard, it's, they go to work, it's their shughul. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention the title. The title of this lesson is Qusur Aadin. This is an idafa construction. This is saying the qusur of Aad. Qusur is the plural of qasr. Qasr, which means like a palace, perhaps a palace or a castle. A palace, I think, is probably the best translation. In the plural, qusur, so that the palaces of Aad. Very nice. Okay, so What do we have next? وَكَانَ. Quite often, especially in this book, when an author is recounting something that happens in the past, we'll often see a lot of kanas. We'll see وَكَانَ. وَكَانَ بَعْضُهُمْ يَفْخَرُ عَلَى بَعْض. This بَعْض عَلَى بَعْض. When you have بَعْضُهُمْ بِبَعْض or بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْض, it's like it carries the meaning of each other. When you hear ba'd and ba'd, I think it just sounds so Arabic as well. Like, you know someone is speaking Arabic when you hear ba'duhum ala ba'd or ba'dukum bi ba'd and stuff like that. You know that's Arabic, but it's because it carries the meaning of being each other. So what would happen is that the word ba'd itself means some, and then this verb fakhara, yafkharu, means to like have pride, and then ala, yafkharu ala is like to have, it's like compete with each other in pride or to have pride over each other. This whole expression, ba'duhum, some of them, yafkharu ala, would be proud over ba'd, would be proud over others. Some of them would be proud over others. In what though? What are they competing in? What do they have pride in over each other? So let's find out. Fi bina'il qusuri. So fi bina'i, and that is because it's fi, this is a preposition, that's why we have a kasra under this next one. So bina' is the noun which comes from building, the verb to build something. So they would have pride over one another in their building of palaces. This is an idafa that's going on here as well. This is the building of palaces, in the building of palaces. Al-'aliya, al-qusur al-'aliya. Al-'aliya, a'ali just means high, if something's high up. Palaces built up very, very high, these huge palaces. And the reason why it's 'aliya, it's feminine, is because qusur is obviously a non-human plural. It's a ghayru aqil, it's not conscious. Palaces aren't conscious, they're not humans, so the plural of which, we treat it feminine, which is why there's a ta marbuta here. And we see the exact same rule be repeated here as well when we see wal-buyuti, and the houses. Guess what? Just like palaces, houses are also not humans. They're not aware, they're not conscious. So we describe them using the word wasi'ah with a ta marbuta, a feminine description on the end. Wasi'ah means vast. So vast houses and high palaces. They would compete with each other in building high palaces and vast houses. Good. وَكَانَتْ أَمْوَالُهُمْ. Again, amwal is the plural of mal, which means like wealth or money. In the plural, obviously, mal is not a human. Money isn't a human. It's inanimate. So we treat it as feminine, which is why we have kanat. So their money was تَضِيعُ فِي. The verb تَضِيعُ actually comes from the verb أَضَاعَ. That's what it is in its past tense. أَضَاعَ يَضِيعُ, which means to lose. This is really talking about them spending their money, but it uses the verb أضاع because it's wasted. They would sort of waste their money on, even though it's fi, which means in, أضاع fi means to waste your money on something. So their money was wasted on what? الماء والطين والحجارة. So الماء just means water. It's not complicated. Al-ma'. Teen is what Allah created mankind from, what Allah created Adam from. It's clay. Teen. And then al-hijara is stone. I think we talked about al-hijara before. Hijara means the material stone. Like if you're making things out of hijara, you're talking about the material stone. One specific stone is a hajar. They're clearly from the same root. Hajar. Yeah, but it's not anything to do with hijra. Hijra, as in like traveling from somewhere to another, is with a ha. Hijra is with a ha, not with a ha. It's not. They're not from the same root. They mean something very different. So, their money was wasted anyway in al-ma' and in teen and in hijara. They were spending their money. I assume they're spending their money on this to build their houses, right? That they don't need. وَكَانُوا لَا يَرَوْنَ مَكَانًا خَالِيًا أَوْ أَرْضًا مُرْتَفِعَةً إِلَّا بَنُوا عَلَيْهَا قَصْرًا رَفِيعًا. Nice. So, وَكَانُوا. So this is just putting something in the past tense, right? That's just putting this bit in the past tense. لَا يَرَوْنَ. They don't see, but we've put kana before it, so they didn't see. مَكَانًا. A makan is a place. And actually, interestingly, the word makan actually comes from the root kana. Often you put a meme, and some other stuff, this is simplifying the rule, but you put a meme before verbs to make them the place where you do it. For example, we have the verb sajada, meaning to prostrate. A masjid is a place where you do your prostrating. So kana means to be. Makan is a place where you be. So it literally just means a place. Yeah, so they didn't see a place. khaliyan. They didn't see any empty place. The word khali just means empty. They didn't see any empty place. Oh, which means or. Ardan, or a land. Murtafi'atan. Comes from the form 8 of irtafa'a. And murtafi'a just means high, or raised, high, or raised up. Raised is perhaps better. From the verb rafa'a, which means to raise. Rafa'a is the form 1. The form 8 is irtafa'a. I'll write it out so you can see it. Irtafa'a. Okay, that's the form 8. So they did not see an empty land or an empty place or a high up land. إِلَّا بَنُوا عَلَيْهَا. Except that they built upon it قَصْرًا رَفِيعًا. A high palace. There were high palaces built everywhere is what it's saying. And again, we see repetition of, this text could have easily said, it could have easily said, in every place they built, in every place they built palaces and whatever. They built high palaces. But instead they've said that there was no place except that they, it's Arabic's way of saying every in this case. They could have said in every place they did it, but instead they said there was not a place except that they built high palaces on it. That's sometimes even I've noticed even when we hear scholars of Islam speaking in English, we even hear them use this speaking habit sometimes. And obviously, as an Arabic teacher, I can spot it from a mile away. But a lot of people probably think it's a bit strange when you hear like scholars of Islam when they're speaking English or people who are doing da'wah, when you hear them speaking and they say things like but rather than saying something simple like I don't know, what's a good example? Like in English, it'd be much more simple to say something like only he say something like every time I saw him he was praying. Every time I saw him in the night he was praying. That's a very simple thing to say in English. But sometimes you hear like dua say something like there was not a night except that I saw him praying. Like quite often that linguistic behaviour in Arabic is brought into English by people who have read it originally in Arabic, and as I say, I can spot it a mile off. But anyways, we'll continue inshallah. So وكانوا يبنون بيوتا كأنما يسكنون فيها دائما ولا يموتون دائما أبدا عفوا. Subhanallah, that's beautiful. Subhanallah. So وَكَانُوا يَبْنُونَ. Again, kanu's job here is just to put something in the past. It's to put the yabnuna, which is the plural of the verb bana, which is used only meaning to build. So they built buyutan. It has to be buyutan because this is the object of the verb. They built houses. كَأَنَّمَا. كَأَنَّمَا is like saying as if yaskununa, as if they live or they will live, fiha, in them. Even though it's fiha, it's saying literally in her, but it's saying her because houses is feminine. So they built houses as if they will live in them da'iman, forever. Forever or always. Da'iman means always, but in this case it's like saying they will live there forever. وَلَا يَمُوتُونَ أبدا, and they will not die. يموتوا from the verb مات, meaning to die. And they will not die أبدا, never. In Arabic you can use double negatives. أبدا means never. You can say ولا يموتون أبدا. They will not die never. You can do that in Arabic. Good. Very nice. أبدا is quite nicely replaced with إلى الأبد. إلى الأبد. إلى الأبد. إلى الأبد. You can they mean the same thing. أبدا or إلى الأبد. They mean the same thing. وكانوا يبنون. So we have the same structure here. Like I'm going to underline our verb, our kana, our verb in the sentence, and then our object of the building. Yeah, so it's like saying past, they build houses. And again we have past, وكانوا, verb, and then the object of the verb, قصورا. So up here where it was they built houses, now it's they built castles. من غير حاجة. So min, quite nice, quite simple, just means from. So they built palaces from غير حاجة. غير is like saying, often you use it for like unnecessary or unbelievable or when you put you often put غير before something. But we're saying غير حاجة. A حاجة is a need. It's like saying unnecessarily or without need. So they built houses like unnecessarily. They built houses that they didn't need. وَالنَّاسُ لَا يَجِدُونَ مَا يَأْكُلُونَ وَيَلْبَسُونَ. And the people, وَالنَّاسُ لَا يَجِدُونَ, from the verb وَجَدَ, meaning to find. The people did not find ma. They did not find what they can يأكلون ويلبسون, what they can eat or wear. There were some people who couldn't even find anything to eat or drink. But then there were also some of the people of Ad who were building houses from stuff they don't even need. Right? They don't even need another house. It's quite reflective of our time really here in the UK. London is packed with empty, beautiful, huge houses and beautiful flats, and then there are people who are homeless. It's actually very, very similar to our time. But okay, and then here's an explanation of that really. So وَكَانَ الْفُقَرَاءُ. So al-fuqara are the poor. The word faqir means is one poor person. But this is quite a good example actually of how in English we can see the rule that in Arabic quite often we say to people in Arabic, nouns can be adjectives and adjectives can be nouns, and that doesn't really seem to make sense to us in English. But when we see a word like poor, if I say the poor in English, is poor a noun or is it an adjective? It can be either, right? So when we say the poor, that is a noun. We're saying the poor person is implied, but poor generally is an adjective. So, but here when we say كان الفقراء, we're saying the poor were. منهم لا يجدون بيتا. So from them, from the poor, right? So from the poor, there were people who لا يجدون بيتا. They didn't find a house. يسكنون فيه, that they could live in, that they live in. وبيوت الأغبياء. أغبياء, it's not أغنياء. Well, yeah, so I thought it would be أغنياء because that means the rich, الأغنياء, but it's أغبياء, the stupid. Yeah. لا ساكن فيها, but there are houses of the stupid. لا ساكن فيها, that there is no sakin, there is no liver. فيها, the verb sakana literally means to live somewhere. Sakana. The verb sakana means to live or to dwell peacefully somewhere. Hence why on a word like this we have a sukoon. If there's no sound, then it's sakin. Because it's peaceful there. You don't need to pronounce an u, an a, or an e, or have a shadda. And that's also where the word sakina comes from. Like sakina is like contentment or to be at peace in your heart. Like, for your heart to be calm, as if you have sakina in your heart. And yeah, so all of those words are connected. Sukoon, as in it, like the silent, the silent, there's no sound on that consonant. Sakina, as in having tranquility in the heart, and then sakana, meaning to live somewhere. But there was no liver. There was nobody living in it. I don't know if this is actually a typo here, if this is actually a mistake here. I mean, it could be al-aghbiya. It could be that the houses of the nobody was living in the houses of the stupid, but I think it makes more sense to be al-aghniya. And yeah, al-aghniya. I think that makes more sense. But both are grammatically sound. It just would make sense that the opposite of al-fuqara, the poor, would be over here al-aghniya. But no problem though. I mean, it would be a very, very easy mistake to make for the dot just to be on the wrong side of that. But anyways, so I mean, yeah, here's I think this is a mistake as well. I mean, here when I mean we'll probably have wamen. It's supposed to be wamen rahum. Whoever saw them. وَرَأَى قُصُورَهُمْ, and saw their palaces. I think there was a mistake there. But, I mean, again, we can infer it quite easily. So whoever saw them and saw their palaces. عَرَفَ أَنَّهُمْ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ. Subhanallah. So, yeah, whoever saw them. وَمَنْ رَاهُمْ. I think there's actually a mistake there as well. I think it's supposed to be like ra'a, like there should be a hamza in there somewhere, but don't worry about it. The meaning of it is, and whoever saw them, or he saw their palaces, he knows. The verb arafa, very simple verb, just meaning to know. He would know annahum. He would know that they la yu'minuna bil akhirah. They do not believe in the akhirah. This verb amana. Amana is a form 4 verb, by the way. Amana, you usually say bi, to believe in something. You amana bi something. You believe by something. What do they not believe in? The akhirah. They do not believe by the akhirah. You can clearly see, because of their houses and how they're wasteful and how they happily have their big houses that are empty, whilst the poor can't find a place to live or can't find something to eat or wear. They clearly don't believe in the akhirah. So that's everything for this video. Thank you very much for joining me on it, and thank you very much for your patience, and congratulations those of you guys, I suppose, who have made it this far and not dropped off. As soon as I start a series, I know at the beginning, I know that most of the people who watch it will not make it to the end. Shaitan will pick off people one by one, and then by the end of it there might be a couple of special people who get to the end of a story or get to the end of something and see it through. So congratulations those of you guys. May Allah bless you and reward you guys who have been patient with it and are learning the vocab as you go through it and paying attention to it. Next lesson, lesson 5, episode 5. We actually get to meet Prophet Hud alayhi salam. Hudun ar-Rasulu. Hud, the messenger. We actually get to meet him then. So I hope you're looking forward to that as much as I am. And I'll catch you guys next week, inshallah. Don't forget to message me if you have any questions. Don't forget to check out the website if you want to get involved in the Arabic program. And as always, you're always very welcome to leave comments in the comment section below if you have questions. Take it easy, guys, and have a really, really nice day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.